Sir Gideon the all-knowing, the all-dick-riding first Immortal, the oldest hero of Invincible. This is a matchup that most of you guys probably would not think of, but it's very ironic, as both of these characters have been famed for being cheeks of their own verse and mixed bag hated. With this being said though, I want to say thank you to Jensen Murph, aka a friend of mine that conceptualized this video, and a shameless plug, video of mine known as Could. In that video, he alleged that the Immortal could defeat Sir Gideon, and I thought that could actually be a very interesting case of battle. And as a connoisseur of both mixed verses in the case of their scaling, knowledgeable about power scaling, and most importantly, fan of versus battles, of course it would be me to go about analyzing this type of form of matchup and taking two characters that are most unusual to be facing each other in most different discussion and see who actually will win. Now, with this being said, I want to say the version of Immortal we're going to be using is going to be the show Immortal, isn't obvious, because in the comics, he is trash, he is of no true significance, he's just bad. With that as well being said, I want to apologize for overestimating him, as with researching and, rereading. This man Immortal in the comics is absolute fodder, absolute dung man, waste man, gatekeeper fodder. But Sir Gideon, we're going to be taking in every creative magic, every creative capability, and really asking the true, most defined question in mind, right? In truth, who would win between these? And I hope you guys will enjoy it. As always, if you're new, please like, share, subscribe, comment, where the case may be. And again, enjoy why Sir Gideon versus the Immortal is not close. Sir Gideon, all-knowing, all-dick-riding, one of the most mysterious, knowledgeable, and adept people with magic in all of Elden Ring. He is the Odin of Elden Ring. He's paranoid, a liar, a manipulator, a snake, a wolf in sheep's clothing, betrays the greatest form of allies upon him, and will kill, manipulate, and discard anybody to get to where he wants. He did it to the Tarnish, he did it to Nefeli Lu, technically, aka later Queen of Stormville, or even possible daughter to Great Lu, chieftain of the Badlands, the Lion, axe of Queen Marika himself. But like any other Tarnish, this man possibly has ties to Grace, even though it's kind of rare if he really is fueled by the greater will to possibly be immortal, like the Tarnish and any other person. But besides that, regardless, he is a very adept and crazy hacks-like maneuvering person, as he is knowledgeable about multiple things and is so paranoid and envious of the Tarnish that he would go about spying on him and stalking him and scavenging different techniques and capabilities of his adversaries. All the bosses you can think of, he uses their different form of techniques against the Tarnish and his iconic boss fight. Now, what he is skilled in from just his base is he's skilled in all different forms of rare Lucaria magic. Glintstone magic pouring through his veins, using it for defense and offense with daggers and swords, using a Kamehameha-like energy beam. He's able to utilize different forms to basically spot on splurge of energy. He uses the black flame, utilized by the Gulmai Queen and her heralds, like the case of the Godskins, aka the God Slayers, that have obviously God skins on them, right? And as well, iconically is famed by the Godskin Apostle and Noble. With this being said, he also has Destructo Disc-like form of Blitz and Disc that he uses in concession with this, that are able to come back to him at the flip of his hand and or flick of his wrist, right? He uses this like into a Destructo Disc, but most likely isn't able to pull what a Destructo Disc can do, which is, durability negation, by the way. With the case of the boss's techniques that he uses mixed, arguably, 4 iconic techniques. He uses the case of the great famed king of Volcano Manor, Rykard's technique of a flaming magma skullfire that's able to track and blist in a bunch of fire and crazy magic and damage. He uses blood magic from Mo, the Lord of Blood. He uses the Scarlet Ionia Blossom of Melania, Blade of Mikola, and Mixed Bag as well uses the case of the Magma Torchfire of Fire Giant by a different account, but Mixed Bag was a case of, conception idea and not actually showcase, or if it is a one-off occurrence, as this is something that is mixed bag more in behind the scenes art that is mixed to say could be canon. But again, pick or choose on how you feel about that. He also has nausality manipulation when it comes down to his body, able to make a form of bubble that builds up kinetic energy that when attacked back to back He's able to burst off people. He also has a nullifier to even like downform amp on somebody's body with his iconic staff, right? And what this does most likely is just pretty much lowers the defense of a person. So, you know, that's something I guess to have, right? But I want to talk about the greater usage of his AP with this. All of this will really fall into the lines at low end face value, really in all logic, just saying because they're used by demigods, possibly get him at low end, possibly, if he wanted to stretch, being above general human to tarnished quarters, aka will put him like in higher from the wall level to small building. But if you wanted to stretch because they come from demigods and you wanted to wink like no other and mix a fire giant hailing from literally a outer god in the case of the fell god, right? He could be easily, can they perceive a multi-solar system to universal person with this magic. And with Melania Scarlet Yonia, because of what she was able to pull, right? She would be reasonably with doing a Blossom and Kaled be from low end a country to multi-country level from a feat because of how Kaled turned out, literally turning Kaled into Florida. As obviously seen with the case of Melania's Blossom, she's able to go ahead and torch the entire place and stain it with rot. But like the Tarnish, even though the Tarnish has more crazy usages of these capabilities, it does them to the exact same and mixed gameplay restrictions. This man possibly does not use these capabilities to the same extent that the demigods are famed to use. So you could argue, yes, that if this man, you know, Sir Gideon wanted to use Blossom Tree, like type activity where he would go about pretty much doing a whole form of Hail Mary against whoever, this guy would be able to pull, again, that level feat with Melania. But there's also argument that he does not actually know how to utilize it the same as the case of the demigods. But I would say most consistently with these usages, especially because of like what he does from a gameplay perspective, he would be easily a wall to small building level person to reasonably, because of again Melania's Scarlet Rot Blossom, would be able to go about the means of, you know, causing a country to multi-country level amount of AP with speed, right? Unless you win him actually scaling to the Tarnish, he would be of the most like lowest stand in of speed, but because he utilizes multi-flingers of different magic that would reasonably go at light speeds to very incredible speeds of the most ridiculous regard, you could at low end say he's massively hypersonic to reasonably faster than light. So yeah, pretty much it when it comes down to Sir Gideon and his capabilities and usage. So yeah, when it comes down to, you know, his greater form of hacks that, you know, I haven't even stated already, would really fall in if you think that every person that Gideon has possibly, you know, went about manipulating or going about, you know, spying on, he could have knowledge of the capabilities on, regardless of that be the people of Round Table, or if you want to say about every person that Tarnish's face, he would know of. But looking at gameplay, he's never actually showcased that. So I would say probably no, that's not reasonable. But yeah, time to go and talk about the Immortal of Invincible. The Immortal of Invincible, one of not the strongest superhero at one point on planet Earth, the original superhero, and has been around for centuries, hailing from being a Viking to barbarian to becoming a great knight wandering the planet, and as well becoming later Abraham Lincoln, a man that has not only showcased multiple times of being one of the more standout presidents and goals and aspirations within the case of his time and showcasing as Abraham Lincoln, but as well did something that reformed the general matter of means for not only Americans, but as well reformed the general idea principle of about equality, race, justice, order, dignity, different case things like that. He was the catalyst for a lot of the most thankful changes that are popular with America makes back today, regardless if they were actually, you know, upholding. With that being said, Immortal gained his powers through a mix of two different origins, through a special case of kind of enchantment mixed tide thing where he was given magical superhuman abilities that made him most peak human beyond compare, or in mix of the show was shown to be tied to a magical portal vortex seeming black hole that generated power after striking him with it seems like lightning. From there, Immortal gained super strength, vulnerability, endurance, speed, stamina, mixed presence of intellect. He gained a greater sentiment of arguably, senses, and most importantly, flight. He was the strongest superhero. He became the first general national superhero, and with him, mixed as well others, created the Guardians of the Globe, run and funded by Cecil, aka the U.S. government, or Pacific, the Pentagon. But with that being said, besides the whole history and all that, Immortal is a very interesting case of cat with strength in different forms that is very mixed, debatable of really being that much stand outish. As simply put, Immortal is seen as one of the most weakest, and reasonably so, using the show. But in the case for the show, what he showed with season 1 being the most predominant runaround of his scaling, even though he somewhat still upholds this scaling, regardless of it be very mixed inconsistent to mix say, as simply put, even though the people he faces and gets shit on are reasonably this strong, he will never be as much of this peak height of caliber and really be out here squabbling with niggas like Jerome Saint like he used to in season 1. But regardless of that, right, this man Immortal, because of rocking with Omni-Man, be able to draw blood from him, even though in the mix he was getting jumped, and as well Omni-Man was very much fatigued, tired, and has been through so many different things up until that point, from getting nuked, from getting jumped man, multi-cracked out, by this fucking big ass kaiju Leviathan looking thing. I mean, this man Omni-Man was literally getting sacked before he even fought this man. It's just kind of crazy how this man Omni-Man was getting thrown with multiple trials and all that type of shit, and he still was banging out with him to the greatest degree. And regardless of that, Immortal was accounted to be, before Omni-Man and even when he was around, the second to dang near most strongest hero. He was the strongest of the Guardians of the Globe, and all of them in some way are able to hurt, restrain, and bring somewhat of a challenge to Omni-Man, right? So with this being said, the fact that Immortal is the strongest out of all of them would reasonably constitute him at low end, reasonably multi-country to possibly multi-continental scaling at a reasonable standing. To, I feel like you could say definitively you can get him by the end-all criteria because of the fact that he scales over almost everyone else on the planet, and his showcase ability to bang out the Muller twins, run other people's fades, regardless of being tired, and again getting clapped by a big ass kaiju and a mix of Invincible, trying to go about fighting this creature, and Omni-Man's sense of direction kind of being split. He still was holding up against him and showcased great relativity and hurting him to a greater extent, even with poking at his eyes being mixed weakness point. This dude would reasonably scale to that, especially because of the fact that Omni-Man was able to go and divert a meteor size of Texas, from his own words, and as well just the multi feats and showcasing that I'm showing on screen that would illustrate that. But the greater constitution for his more consistent greater ends is reasonably, I feel like, moon level to, you could try to say, because of his scaling to others and mixed representation of what he could do to different versions of Mark, right, which is mixed system with what he's able to do, even if Mark is reasonably more stronger, faster, better, all that shit, right, could get him to about the small planetary yield. I feel like it's most consistent to say that he's about moon level, but you could try to greater, say that he's about the small planetary likelihood, because again, all the scaling presented and shown. But highest end yield would say that he's actually rightfully planetary, if by the record that Omni-Man and Invincible are two people that stand out in comparison to Immortal. Immortal would still, by the case of even greater deal of season showcasings, if it wasn't Omni-Man and Invincible, would be possibly top dog. He, sub all accounts, is the strongest of the Guardians of the Globe, and these are people that are able to somewhat poke at Battle Beast, in full fairness, poke at him. They don't do anything of actual sort, and as well do something to some different mixed matter of figures that are on similar connotation and credibility of this scale, as well as just the facts of the matter is that, again, if we're discounting the credit of what, Omni-Man and Invincible have done to mix the deal with season 1 and only mention, regardless of the later seasons, there's a level of the fact that Omni-Man, regardless of being fatigued or not, was only somewhat distinctly stronger than Immortal when it came down to after multi-mix blows, mixed kind of like mental confliction because he saw Omni-Man as an ally, right? So there's a level of like kind of mixed type of like context, to be taken. But I would say most consistently, most congruently, regardless of how you see it, being the most consistent, not discounting the credibility of what, Omni-Man and Invincible could do within season 1 with the case of their, context presented. I would say that, again, excluding Omni-Man and Invincible, this man Immortal should reasonably be the strongest person on Earth, right? And decently a strong person. Even if, again, he really is only above the general echelon of fodder and doesn't do that much distinctly to constitute him as being anything of weight. Because, again, a lot of people that he's stronger over, doesn't matter. He doesn't scale to Allen. He doesn't scale to Battle Beast. He doesn't scale to the greater feats of Mark, even Mixed Bag Perception Season 1, and even Omni-Man, right? And account for, what he has done. And, again, discounting those feats in mixed comparison to him because of the fact that the type of fights are mixed talk. But again, I see no real reason to see it somehow as being, not a equal or relative setting between them at bare minimum. With speed, obviously, because scanning through these people, he would get from reasonably low and multiple times great relativistic to reasonably faster than the speed of light to argument to mixed stretch. Again, with scaling to possibly just below two other higher ends, possibly greatly, massively faster than light on multiple thousands to hundreds of thousands speed, right? He's easily pushing FTL, right, with the consistent stance, right? So, in conclusion, it was an obvious. It really depends on how you look at it, but I feel like, suffice to say, Immortal has every credibility to say that he is beyond Sir Gideon, not only because he is not only physically stronger, he's way more faster, he has better feats, he has better scaling, he has better constitution, he has better credibility and why he does what he does and how he moves the way he does. So with that being said, I believe, again, in conclusion, that this man Immortal is way beyond the comprehension of Sir Gideon, and reasonably consistently, the only way that this man Sir Gideon could have an argument to scale to him at all is if you stretch the actual withdrawal of power of the demigods, and as well utilization of different capability of techniques and shit like that, that maybe if you stretch could dish out the same level of shit that demigods previously have done. Or if you try to say, what if Sir Gideon just instant blossoms? I would think in all reality that Immortal would see that as being a big alarming thing, and before Sir Gideon could even go about popping Blossom, this man Immortal would one-shot blitz this dude into outer space, make him look like that one image of that Viltrumite literally bursting through a woman, and literally fucking make this nigga look like a fucking sloppy Joe pit, bro. Literally make him look like a gum tack, bro. Splattered, Splatoon, look like a whole fucking pile of mashed potatoes, bro. Regu. That man would not survive. And even then, he could pull his iconic talk of just throw him into space. He could do that. He could literally just blitz Sir Gideon and fling his ass like a fastball. He will do nothing. Like, he will softball this nigga into the ground. Immortal is 1,000 times beyond his comprehension. And even if you equal the stats, Immortal, I would argue, regardless of how much knowledge you want to give Sir Gideon, is not going to work the most efficiently looking at baseline. And I see this man Immortal not only banging in this man Sir Gideon, but just how he plays from a matter of, different form of like his magic and different shit. I would say, because of the things Immortal has had to deal with across the entire time as a hero, he would be able not only to counter this, he would be able to adapt, he would be able to best against the odds, and put down almost every aspect of Sir Gideon's hacks and or defense, right? No matter if you want to say Destructo Disc, causality manipulation with his body, this nigga Sir Gideon is not going to be able to endure a great deal of this stuff, and mixed gameplay contextualism, I would say how he fights, how he plays, his different cards, he would not be able to utilize a great deal of his versatility enough, while Immortal is not only pounding him in, piecing him up, giving him Popeye's biscuits, full piece, finger licking good. It would not be good. It would not be good. This shit would not be good in any sense of the way. This will be entirely stomped. he will flatline him. And again, even with equal speed, he can fly. He has a lot of interesting maneuvers. There's just no way. So again, in conclusion, I believe Immortal wins. It's a slap, one-shot speed blitz. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Hope you guys have learned something. I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Peace, I'm Army. Love y'all.